Yeah. Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this government can do.
Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that
Pick
there are
anyone.
people who are
White
dying
South
of this.
Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all. I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently.
Every time, when will you go and see for yourself if it isn't?
Well, I could do that. Look.
My people, one of the most consequential meetings of the decade, and without a doubt, the most important one for Africa this year, just took place at the White House. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, a liberation fighter, Mandela's lead negotiator, and the leader of Africa's largest economy, walked into the Oval Office this week with one mission: to make a deal. He came to reset a strained relationship, set the record straight, strengthen trade and investment, build a real mutual partnership between Africa and the United States, the kind that we've been talking about for weeks here on The Breakdown. He came with solutions, with ideas that could have helped the U.S. renew its commitments and regain the trust of a continent that's been steadily shifting its alliance toward the global South. But what did we get? A lecture, a performance, and a painful reminder that even in 2025, white lives are still worth more than black lives. On live TV, with the cameras rolling, Trump unloaded gruesome videos, cherry-picked headlines, chanting crowds from South Africa, all to push a narrative of white genocide. President Trump brought a TV in the Oval Office just to show Ramaphosa what he calls proof of persecution against white South African farmers. But what he conveniently ignored, that black South Africans, the majority, are dying at even higher rates from the same violent crime crisis, from the same poverty, from the same broken systems that apartheid left behind. Yet none of that made the cut because, let's be honest, this wasn't about facts. It was about fear and whose pain gets to matter. If you watched it, it was uncomfortable, sometimes cringy, but mostly disturbing. A sitting African head of state, ambushed, lectured about what's going on in his own country by a U.S. president, and being asked why he hasn't arrested the leader of an opposition party. My people, what we witnessed was the very thing Chimamanda Adichie has been warning the world about for years: the danger of a single-sided story. Yes, and this time, that story played out in the most powerful room in the world, on camera, for the whole world to see. Let's be clear. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. It didn't just tell us about U.S. Africa relations. It told us something deeper, something that we all cannot afford to ignore. No deals were made, no commitments were given, and yet everything was exposed. So today on The Breakdown, we're breaking down exactly what went down in that room, what it means for South Africa, what it reveals about America, and why for the global Black community, this matters. And we're also asking, did Ramaphosa just lose the battle to save the U.S. relationship? And more importantly, what is he willing to give up next to salvage it? Because make no mistake, this wasn't the end. It might just be the beginning. We're going to break it down, but first, a big welcome to all of our new subscribers and members. I am so glad you're here. And if you're watching and haven't joined us yet, please consider this your personal invitation. Because here at Panagenius TV, we're not just building a channel, we're creating a global home for Black stories that are told with truth, with intention, and with power. And if that speaks to you, and I hope it does, hit subscribe, tap the bell, drop a super thanks, or join our membership community where we go beyond the headlines with exclusive content, behind the scenes conversations, and a front row seat to the dialogue shaping our future. And hey, if there is a breaking news story happening wherever you are that you think deserves global attention, email us at contact@panagenius.com. We'd love to hear from you. All right, now let's break it down. So let's go straight into the meeting. It starts off with the usual greetings and acknowledgements.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a great honor to be with the President of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, and he is a man who is certainly in some circles really respected, other circles a little bit less respected, like all of us, in all fairness, like all of us.
We all like that.
Now, no, that's not funny. That's what you call shade. Because how exactly is that relevant here? You're standing next to the president of Africa's largest economy, a freedom fighter, live on the world stage. And instead of giving him a clear nod of respect, you float this backhanded compliment. This isn't a campaign rally, Mr. Trump. It's diplomacy. This is not the time to guess what some people might think of him. The question is, what do you think of him? Do you respect him? Let's keep going.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming us to this reformed White House. I've been here before and it looks really fantastic. I must congratulate you.
Thank you.
But I also thank you for allowing our delegation. This is a very mixed delegation that you've got. We've got people from government, my ministers. I've got someone from the trade union movement who we really collaborate with, and from business as well, and our sporting legends. When I spoke to you, you said, yes, come along and bring Gary Player, bring any else, and Retief Goosen. I brought the two of them. Gary Player, I spoke to him, and he said, look, I'm getting rather on in my years, but wishes us luck in this discussion with you.
Now, what follows is a long-winded 7-minute introduction, which I'll spare you. Ramaphosa rambling about the G20 handoff like it's a track meet, thanking Trump for a reformed White House, and gifting a 14-kilogram golf book. And no, expressing gratitude for giving South Africa some respirators during COVID. Yes, we got the flashback too. Now, don't get me wrong. Diplomatic gestures have their place. But let's be real. The energy in that room was off. You could feel both leaders trying to sound cordial, but also dancing around something much heavier. Ramaphosa came to reset the U.S. South Africa relationship, but from that opening, it already felt like a mismatch. A lot of thank yous, a lot of small talk, but not a lot of truth. Because the real issues, the white genocide narrative, trade tensions, the attacks on South Africa's land reform, those were simmering just beneath the surface. And when they finally did come up, it wasn't exactly diplomatic.
What will it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the President. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer. It will be.
Our President will respond to you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it will take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
Now, that was the moment when Ramaphosa had to call the nonsense what it is. without actually calling it nonsense. A reporter asks Trump what it would take to convince him there is no white genocide in South Africa, a claim rooted in far-right conspiracy theories that's been debunked over and over again. But then Ramaphosa jumps in quickly, wasting no time. Well, I could answer that for you. You could tell he's been waiting for that question to come up. And he steps in, calm, measured, diplomatic. But make no mistake, this was shade served cold. It would take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends. And then he lands the blow, smooth as silk. If there was a white farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. Now, those gentlemen he is referring to are Johan Rupert, a billionaire South African businessman, John Steenhuisen, his agriculture minister, who also leads South Africa's second biggest party, the Democratic Alliance, and Adrian Gore, another successful South African businessman. Now, what do all three of them have in common? They're white. So he's asking, if there was really a genocide against their own people in our land, do you think they would be following me here to Washington? Now, Ramaphosa didn't raise his voice. He didn't get defensive. He just pointed out the absurdity of the entire situation, using facts, logic, and the very people standing next to him. But of course, that's not enough for Trump. He responds.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do.
Wait, pause. What? Are we still in a diplomatic meeting between heads of state? Or do we just switch to a MAGA movie night? Ramaphosa just delivered a calm, fact-based rebuttal to the white genocide myth. But instead of engaging with the point, Trump does what Trump does. He reaches for the show. He starts fumbling around for someone to hit play on a video, like it's a campaign rally. Turn the lights down, he says. This is classic Trump. Deflect from substance with spectacle. Forget lived reality. Forget the president of South Africa sitting next to you, telling you the truth. The real authority here, apparently, is some video clip. And what did he actually show on the screen? A video of Julius Malema, the leader of an opposition party, economic freedom fighters, seen in various rallies singing the Shoot the Boer song. Here's a clip from the video.
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yeah. South African occupy land. That's who we are. Can we draw my membership from this useless parliament? Yes, honorable member. Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Yamaza.
My goodness. Did you see the woman standing by the screen? She was mortified. I would be too. Because this public spectacle is just not necessary. And you can't just cherry pick things completely out of context and show it to the world. Now let me put this into some context for you. Julius Malema is a controversial figure in South Africa. His party advocates the nationalism of land, and he's known for chanting the song at his political rallies. The song was once an anti-apartheid anthem, and Afrikaner lobby groups have tried to get it banned. But South Africa's Supreme Court of Appeal has ruled that, quote, a reasonable, well-informed person would understand that when protest songs are sung, even by politicians, the words are not meant to be understood literally, nor is the gesture of shooting to be understood as a call to arms or violence. Instead, they say the song was a provocative way of advancing the EFF's political agenda, which was to end land and economic injustice. Let's get back to the video, because what happens after this, whew, you need to see it to believe it.
I don't know. Okay.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One. Perhaps
What are you talking about?
Can we have a South Africa question, please? Mr. President,
the Pentagon spokesperson.
What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing, they also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from me. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that.
Please may we have a South African
His name
question,
is Peter
Mr.
something.
President
He's
Trump?
a terrible
If they're
reporter.
committing genocide, why invite them to the White House?
Quiet.
I'll be quiet.
Quiet.
Sure, that's my question now.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Annika Larson from ENCA in South Africa. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
hosting
much.
us. What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that there are
Pick
black
anyone.
people who are
White
dying
South
the most.
Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all. I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently.
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
Well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place.
President Trump-
These are all white farmers that are being buried.
President Trump.
And he asks about a jet that was given.
My first question
You
is
ought to
about
be ashamed.
Afrikaners.
We're not interested in the
You know,
jet.
you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter.
If they're committing genocide, why invite them? Sir, if they are committing genocide, why invite the South Africans to the White House?
May I finish, please, President Trump?
President Ramaphosa.
Mr. President
This
Trump,
is
may I
one
finish?
after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a
President
response from President
Ramaphosa, can you give us your
Ramaphosa?
reaction to those videos, Mr. President?
President Trump, could you?
Well, I
could
think
you
it's.
address
I think
black
the
people
videos are
dying
so.
more than white
No,
people?
no. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what it is. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says it's you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now we're going to talk about it.
We're going to.
But this is a tremendous look. This is story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are
President
okay.
Trump,
And you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march, they had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
But
and
let me
it was
clarify
terrible.
that.
Yeah,
Let me
please.
clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
and then
take
when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
Nothing happens to
There
them.
is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
The
been
farmers aren't
utilized-
black. The farmers are not black.
We have
I don't
now-
say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off. They died violently. And, we're here to talk about it.
Now let's break that down. Because what we're hearing isn't just a concern about crime. It's something deeper, more troubling, and yes, more hypocritical. First, let's state the facts. Yes, South Africa has a serious problem with violent crime. Yes, farmers, black and white, have been victims. And yes, some politicians and fringe voices have made inflammatory, even dangerous statements. But here's what Trump isn't telling you. Most of the victims of violent crime in South Africa are black South Africans. The murder rate in informal settlements, where black people live in far greater numbers, is much higher than in rural farming communities. And the government's land reform policy is aimed at undoing the legacy of apartheid, not promoting violence. But Trump ignores all of that. Instead, he narrows in on the image of a white farmer under threat. Why? Because in his world, whether he says it out loud or not, white pain matters more. This is the same Trump who told black NFL players to shut up and play when they knelt for black lives. The same Trump who called African countries shitholes. The same Trump who stayed silent when black communities were crying out about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and generations of racial violence. Where was the global outrage for the millions of black Africans killed during the Congo Free State's rubber trade under Leopold? Or the genocide in Namibia under German colonial rule? Or the slave trade that ripped families apart for centuries? Where were the clips, the articles, the documentaries, the international condemnations? Apparently, that history didn't spark the same urgency, no. But now, when white farmers are victims, suddenly it's a tremendous issue. That's the hypocrisy. It's not that any life matters more than another. It's that Trump is selectively outraged, and dangerously so. If he had stood there and said, South Africa has a crime problem, people of all races are dying, what's going on? And how can we help stop the violence? That would have been leadership. But instead, he says, they're killing white farmers and nothing is happening. It's a false narrative, and it's loaded with the dangerous implication that white lives are under attack by black people and the world should act. Now, that's not just misleading, that's the kind of rhetoric that fuels racial resentment and even violence. Here's the truth. The root problem in South Africa isn't race. It's inequality, it's poverty, and the unfinished business of apartheid's legacy. It's a system where black people still disproportionately live without land, wealth, or safety, and crime thrives in that kind of environment. Trump had a chance to speak about justice. Instead, he chose to speak about white grievance. That's the problem.
I didn't know we'd get involved here, but I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake like NBC, which is fake news, totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they could help us out, because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built. 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I'd take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay. But coming back to this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to sit down around a table and talk about them.
Well, there are
and
problems.
this is precisely what we would also like to talk about, including, of course, trade matters, investment matters. So the issues that concern you as the United States.
Those are all recent.
And
those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, I mean, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about. Let me just add quickly, the criminality that we are experiencing in our country needs quite a lot of technological capability. And in one of our areas in South Africa, we're using U.S. technology, which is able to, in many ways, identify where shootings are happening and all that. And I'd like to talk about that, because there is support that we can get from you as the United States to help us deal with all these acts of criminality. And that is what I believe partnership is all about. And we are here as a partner so that we can help each other whenever there are challenges. So I'd like us to discuss it, and of course outside of the media, so that we sit down and have a really good discussion that will lead to good outcomes.
Now that was a grown-up response. President Ramaphosa could have met Trump's alarmism with anger. He could have clapped back with that history lesson on colonialism, apartheid, or the global silence during centuries of Black suffering. But instead, he chose the diplomatic route. You are a partner of South Africa, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about. He didn't dodge the issue of crime. He didn't pretend South Africa is perfect. What he said was simple. Let's deal with this like partners. He even went further, pointing to the need for U.S. support in tackling crime through technology and collaboration. He said, let's invest in solutions. Let's stop people, Black, white, everyone, from getting killed. Let's use our relationship to actually improve lives. That's the real headline here. But Trump, he wasn't listening. Because Ramaphosa's approach requires nuance. And nuance doesn't fit into Trump's political playbook. Let's be real. Trump wasn't interested in hearing South Africa's side of the story or their challenges. He framed the problem as they're killing white farmers and nothing happens. And his goal at that meeting was to show to the world what he means. But Ramaphosa reframed it as we are facing criminal violence. Let's talk as partners about how to solve it for everyone, not just white people. And the irony, Trump didn't respond. Because again, this wasn't about safety for everyone, right? It was about safety for just a small group of people. It was about optics. It was about peddling the old lie that white lives are in danger because black people have too much power. But Ramaphosa didn't bite. Instead, he pointed to what true partnership could look like. Sharing resources, sharing responsibility, tackling crime not with fear-mongering, but with facts, technology, and collaboration. Because if Trump really cared about saving lives in South Africa, he'd ask, why are people, black and white, still so unsafe 3 decades after apartheid? How can a country that was once ruled by violent racial segregation begin to truly heal? And what role should America play in supporting that as your partner? That's the conversation a real leader would have. But Trump's not here to help South Africa into a safer future. He's here to drag it into an old narrative, one where white fear is currency and black pain is invisible. Let's keep going.
Are there any other further punitive measures that could be in place should you not be satisfied that South Africa is fixing some of the very bad things, in inverted commas, that you tweeted are happening?
Well, there are a lot of bad things happening in many countries, but this in particular has been very, very bad, and because of we're going to have the whole world watching in another short period of time because you have the G20. And that's a big deal, and it seems like, I want you to look good. I don't want you to look bad.
Very good.
But we have hundreds of people, thousands of people trying to come into our country because they feel they're going to be killed and their land is going to be confiscated. And you do have laws that were passed that gives you the right to confiscate land for no payment. You can take away land for no payment.
I want to clarify that because we have a constitution. Our constitution guarantees and protects the sanctity of tenure of land ownership. And that constitution protects all South Africans with regard to land ownership. However, we do say, because we've got to deal with the past, the government, and as your government also has the right to expropriate land for public use.
And you're doing that.
And we've never really gotten underway with that, and we are going to be doing so.
You're taking people's land away
we have not.
From them. And those people, in many cases, are being executed. They're being executed, and they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away. And in many cases, those people are being executed. And in many cases, it's not the government that's doing it. It's people that kill them and then take their land, and nothing happens to them. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. They're also going to Australia in a smaller number. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country, and they're white farmers, and they feel that they're going to die in South Africa. And it's a bad thing. Yeah, please.
So let's be clear. Land reform is not land theft. The South African government has a constitutional mandate to address the inequities left by apartheid. Yes, where millions of black South Africans were forcibly removed from their ancestral land and left with nothing. Ramaphosa's government has pursued this through legal, democratic means. Land can only be expropriated for just cause, with public interest in mind and under the law. And in some cases, the government actually pays far more than the worth of the land to these white farmers. So to pretend that South Africa is just randomly confiscating land and executing white farmers is to twist the truth into something grotesque and racist. Trump says thousands of white farmers feel they are going to die. But what about the millions of black South Africans who have been dying from poverty, from violence, from structural inequality for decades due to the legacy of apartheid? Where was the global outrage then? Where was the U.S. sanctions when apartheid stripped black people of land, citizenship, or even the right to vote? That's the hypocrisy here. This selective outrage reveals the real message that when black lives are lost, or black land is stolen, it's politics as usual. But when white people feel threatened, it's a global crisis. It reinforces the notion, conscious or not, that white lives are more valuable than black ones. And let's talk about Trump's refugee argument. He claims thousands of white South Africans want to flee to the U.S. because of fear. But this is the same man who implemented a Muslim ban, who slashed refugee admissions from war-torn countries, who caged migrant children at the border. The only time he expresses sympathy for migrants is when they are white. Can't make this up. In the end, Ramaphosa is right. This is a conversation between partners. A real partner doesn't airlift people based on skin color. A real partner rolls up their sleeves and asks, how can we help build justice and safety for everyone in South Africa? Until that's the approach, let's call this what it is. Not a humanitarian concern, but a political performance. One that tells the world, once again, whose lives really matter in Trump's eye. And let's be honest, those thousands of Afrikaners Trump claims are fleeing South Africa, well, maybe it's time for them to go. Because those who truly see themselves as South Africans, they stay. They fight for their country. They work to fix what's broken. They don't fan the flames of division. They don't gaslight a nation still healing from apartheid. And they certainly don't hand someone like Trump the ammunition to twist South Africa's struggles into a weapon for his own political agenda. Let's keep going.
Two questions for you.
First, what can South Africa do? What concessions would you like to see them make to improve relations with the United States? Then I have one more for President Ramaphosa afterwards.
Well, we just spoke about, I got them a very, very complex machine, 150 of them. And I was asked by the president if he could help. Yes. And I did that. And, I have great feeling for all countries. I deal with all countries. But I have a great feeling for South Africa because I have friends. I have a couple of friends, a few friends here today. But I have many friends from South Africa. But many of those friends are not, they can't go back. I have Elon is from South Africa. I don't want to get Elon involved. That's all I have to do, get him into another thing. But Elon happens to be from South Africa. This is what Elon wanted. He actually came here on a different subject, sending rockets to Mars, okay? Yes. He likes that better. He likes that subject better. That's right. But Elon is from South Africa, and I don't want to talk to him about that. I don't think it's fair to him.
That's right.
But I will say that people are fleeing South Africa for their own safety. Their land is being confiscated, and in many cases they're being killed. And that scene of, you see how many crosses they have. Those crosses, that's a dead person in every one of them. And those trucks or cars are paying their respects to all of those dead people on a Sunday morning. That's a rough thing to explain away.
Now at this point, we're just beating the same old drum. Trump is stuck in a loop, repeating the same discredited narrative of white victimhood in South Africa, citing dubious scenes of crosses, and people fleeing for their lives. There's no new argument, no new evidence, just the same emotionally manipulative, racially charged rhetoric. But what's far more revealing and dangerous is the name Trump casually drops in this rant: Elon Musk. Because here's the real story. Musk isn't just some random South African expat with a Mars obsession. He's Trump's new advisor-in-chief, both behind the scenes and in full public view. He's been helping Trump craft tech policy, immigration rhetoric, and increasingly foreign affairs. And when it comes to South Africa, Musk has been laying the ideological groundwork for years. Let's not forget, Musk is one of the loudest global voices promoting the myth of white genocide in South Africa. He's tweeted about it multiple times, amplifying stories of white farmers allegedly being hunted while ignoring the broader realities of South African crime and the historical roots of land inequality. His framing is never about justice. It's about grievance, about race. But Musk's real beef with South Africa isn't moral. It's financial. He wants to operate Starlink in South Africa without adhering to local laws, specifically the requirement that at least 30% of telecom ownership be in the hands of historically disadvantaged South Africans. In other words, Black South Africans. That's what this is really about. Not safety, not land, but power and profit. Musk doesn't want to share. He doesn't want to comply. He wants to operate outside the rules. And when he's told no, he cries foul. He uses his platform to paint South Africa as lawless and anti-white, hoping to pressure the government into changing its policies in his favor. Trump, of course, eats this up. He now invokes Musk as if he's some kind of reluctant witness here. I don't want to drag Elon into this, he says, even as he very deliberately drags him into it. That's the trick. Name drop Musk, imply he's another white South African who had to flee danger, and fold him neatly into the narrative of persecution. But let's be clear. Elon Musk is not a victim of South African law. He is a billionaire trying to avoid accountability to the very people who were disenfranchised under apartheid, the same system that privileged families like his. And Trump isn't protecting white South Africans. He's protecting white capital. He's using fake humanitarian concern to shield his cronies from Black economic empowerment, the very principle South Africa is trying, slowly and imperfectly, to uphold. So yes, Trump is stuck. But Musk is orchestrating something much bigger, using race, tech, and disinformation to bend the rules in his favor. This isn't just a foreign policy mess. It's a new front in the global backlash against equity, and we should all be paying attention. Let's keep going.
And the problem we have, and the way, a correct and a fair media exposes things. But we have a very corrupt media. They won't even report this. If this were the other way around, it would be the biggest story. Now, I will say apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest story. That was reported all the time. This is sort of the opposite of apartheid. What's happening now is never reported. Nobody knows about it. All we know is we're being inundated with people, with white farmers from South Africa. And it's a big problem. Marco Rubio was telling me he's never seen anything like it. The numbers of people that want to leave South Africa because they feel they're going to be dead very soon. Yes, please.
I was going to say,
Brian, go.
if I could just ask you a question. 72% of farmers in your country are white. If they flee, do you feel that maybe the economy could collapse? You may not have a gap to fill in those people that need to replace those farmers.
I'd like my Minister of Agriculture, who is white, who comes from an opposition party to mine, who's joined my government at my invitation to address this very issue, including the question that you just raised. John?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah.
And Mr. President, thank you for welcoming us to the White House. I would say we have a rural safety problem in South Africa, and I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require a different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work. And I've just come from the largest agricultural show in the Southern Hemisphere with organized agriculture and farmers, and the majority of them want to stay. But they too there have a memorial to those who've died as a result of farm attacks. And as the Minister of Agriculture, it is something that I'm particularly exercised with my colleagues at police and my colleagues in the justice cluster to stop making farm attacks and stock theft a priority crime. And it affects all farmers in South Africa, particularly stock theft. It has a disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers. I also want to just say this, that the two individuals that are in that video that you've seen are both leaders of opposition minority parties in South Africa. Mkhonto Wesizwe under Mr. Zuma and the economic freedom fighters under Mr. Malema. Now the reason that my party, the Democratic Alliance, which has been an opposition party for over 30 years, chose to join hands with Mr. Ramaphosa's party was precisely to keep those people out of power. We cannot have those people sitting in the union buildings making decisions. And that is why after 30 years of us exchanging barbs across the floor in Parliament and trying to get one over on each other, we've decided to join hands precisely to keep that lot out of government. Because the day they get in to the doors of the union buildings in South Africa or control of our Parliament, that's what you're going to see. And that is why this government, working together, needs the support of our allies around the world so that we can strengthen our hand, grow our economy, and shut the door forever on that rabble getting through the doors of the union buildings, because then South Africa's future would be...
So you denounced that type of language in the video that you saw?
Oh yes, we've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia, they're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation. And if we had a real news or real press or media, we don't have that because they won't talk about this because they're all guys like that idiot. But if we had a real press, it would be exposed. And you know, the beauty of exposing it is it's like a cleansing action. When it gets exposed, it'll get fixed. That's when it'll get fixed. But people don't talk about it. And I'll tell you who's talking about the thousands of people that are fleeing South Africa right now.
So when a reporter raised a legitimate economic question about whether the exit of white farmers would affect South Africa's agricultural economy, the South African delegation gave a mature, nuanced response. President Ramaphosa explained that his Minister of Agriculture, a white man from an opposition party, joined his government specifically to tackle the complex challenges in agriculture, including farm safety and racial equity in land ownership. The minister added that most farmers, white and black, want to stay and work through these challenges together. This is what democratic, multiracial governance looks like. That is what post-apartheid progress looks like. Messy, but committed to fairness. Trump, however, hijacks the moment. He ignores the efforts of South Africans to manage their own affairs. Instead, he went straight for the most inflammatory trope. Why hasn't Julius Malema been arrested? Wait, what? Do you even understand how democracy works? South Africa is a constitutional democracy. Ramaphosa can't just wake up and arrest the leader of an opposition party because he doesn't like his campaign rhetoric. That's not how the rule of law works. Not in South Africa, not in any functioning democracy. And more importantly, South Africa is not a U.S. protectorate. It's an independent sovereign state with its own legal system, its own constitution, and its own political complexities. You don't get to make demands. You don't get to dictate who stays and who goes. But my people, this right here is the deeper problem, right? Western powers still believe they have the right to meddle in African affairs, to call the shots, to question our leaders like they're governors of some colonial outpost. And when they don't like who's in charge, they fund the opposition, they stir the pot, they fuel the division, they whisper in the ears of discontent. This is how internal conflict is created and sustained across the continent. They say, we don't like what this leader is doing. Let's support the other guy. Let's create pressure. Let's make it look like chaos. That is what Trump is doing here. not just projecting his own authoritarian fantasies, but reinforcing a long legacy of imperial interference disguised as concern. The message is clear. If Africa stands up for itself, governs itself, corrects its injustices on its own terms, they will question your right to do so. They will insert themselves. They will gaslight you with fear. And that's not just dangerous, it's haunting. Because we've seen this movie before in Congo, in Libya, in Sudan, in Haiti. And we're not going back. No. Let's keep going.
Thanks for the honor of being here. We've known each other a long time. We have spoken. You know, we're proud South Africans. I still have my South African passport. You know, we travel with this passport, you know, and I got my visa here. So, you know, but we want to see things get better in our home country. And that's the bottom line. It's been 35 years since the transition. President Ramaphosa was right in the middle of the transition time in 1990 and before that. So it's been 35 years of ANC government, and I know there's a lot of anger, you know, through the transition. There was also a lot of stuff happening in the apartheid days. You know, we grew up in the apartheid era, but I don't think two wrongs makes a right. You know, President Mandela, when he came out of prison for all that time, didn't come out with hatred, you know, and really unified our nation through sport. You know, we won the Rugby World Cup in '95.
4 times.
We won the African Nations Cup, soccer. You know, we won some majors as golfers and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, this has been a long time coming. That's why we really wanted to meet you, meet the administration, and see our way forward, because we still want to see our country flourish. You know, we've got some great things going on. Business is getting involved with government. Farmers are getting involved in local municipalities, trying to rebuild some of the infrastructure that's been decaying for a long time. So there's a lot of coexistence going on and help from a lot of areas. But I feel we need the U.S. to push this thing through. We've got a great ally if we can have the U.S. It's always been an ally of South Africa for a very long time. Even in the days of the war, you know, up in Angola, you know, you guys helped us. So very important for us to have your support and you know, get the change we need.
Where did you do that well? He might have done that even better than he plays golf, which is almost impossible. Johan, please.
Mr. President, if you had to wind all of those tapes properly, you will see I'm the biggest target of that rabble-rouser. Number one for over 10 years, Mr. Malema. In fact, the first time I met him, he was in the youth league with that gentleman, and look how he's changed.
Right.
We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers, it's across the board. And we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones. I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, U.S. basics, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York could be what it became. 2 commissioners, tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing. But it's across the board. Ernie is right now building a house in George. I'm building 3 cottages for my grandchildren on a farm outside Graaff-Reinet. I often go to bed without locking the door. And we have a serious problem with illegal aliens who stream across the border. And if you really look at our statistics, a lot of these murders, firstly it's unemployment and illegal aliens. And then I met Vice President Watts many years ago at Charlie Rose show. My wife loved his book. And she reminded me this morning that you emphasized the devastation that occurs when big companies leave towns and cities, and there's a culture of dependency that develops. I remember you discussing it. Now that's our problem. If we don't get our economy to grow, the culture of dependency and the lawlessness will increase. I've been against apartheid all my life, and I'm their number 1 target. Please just Google my name and Malema. You'll see it, sir.
Yeah.
He marched on the
But
farm.
the crime is bad.
The crime is terrible, sir, but Mr. Steenhuisen won't admit to it, but he runs the Western Cape, where I live. And the biggest murder rate is in the Cape Flats.
Now, the 2 white men who just spoke are Ernie Els and Johan Rupert. There's a reason why their presence at this conversation matters. And it's not just because they're rich or recognizable. Ernie Els, he's a national sports hero, a world-class golfer, a son of South Africa who grew up during apartheid, watched the country transition, and chose to use his platform to speak about unity, healing, and yes, progress. Johan Rupert, he is one of South Africa's most powerful businessmen and one of the richest. But unlike many elites who stay in the background, he's publicly engaging on issues that cut to the heart of South Africa's future: violence, inequality, infrastructure, and the erosion of social trust. Ernie Els's remarks were humble but profound. He didn't try to pretend that things were perfect. He acknowledged the pain of apartheid, the anger of transition, and the imperfections of the current moment. But he reminded everyone of something deeper, that Mandela's legacy was not vengeance, it was reconciliation. He spoke about how far the country has come and how badly it still wants to flourish. We grew up in apartheid. I don't think 2 wrongs make a right, he said. That line was quiet, but heavy. In a time where bitterness often overshadows nation building, Els's message was a call to return to the spirit of unity, not denial, not nostalgia, but healing with purpose. He didn't downplay the structural problems. He simply insisted that the U.S. could still be a vital partner, not a judge, but a supporter in helping South Africa reach its full potential. Then came Johan Rupert, and his message was clear. We need help, but not charity. He pointed out the realities: high murder rates, lawlessness, gang violence, economic stagnation, and the rise of illegal immigration and underdevelopment in rural areas. But he didn't use these facts to incite fear. He used them to make a practical case for technological partnership. He asked for investments in solutions, drones, data tools, not troops or lectures. That distinction matters because Rupert is right. South Africa's biggest threat isn't just political dysfunction, it's the danger of a collapsing middle ground, where the rich barricade themselves in gated communities, the poor are stuck in hopelessness, and the sense of shared future disintegrates. Both men spoke with urgency, but also with dignity. They didn't frame South Africa as a basket case. They framed it as a country still fighting for its promise, one that needs allies who understand its history, respect its sovereignty, and can offer useful tools for the path ahead. Their voices mattered because they challenged the zero-sum narrative, the idea that either you're for white farmers or black land reform, for private business or public governance. No, South Africa's real future is in both, in equity and enterprise, justice and growth, local solutions with global support. And that's what made their intervention so important.
Gangs. We've got gang warfare. Like your M33 or whatever, these guys. We've got the equivalents there. But we need your help, sir. And we need Elon technology.
Well, one of the real areas of support is really in investments. We've got to grow our economy, because through growing the economy, we're then able to create more jobs. Because crime really thrives where there is inequality and unemployment. And that is one of the reasons that has brought us here, to improve our investment relations, our trade relations, so that we can preserve the number of jobs that your companies have created in South Africa. By virtue of what we export to you, we are able to create up to 500,000 jobs in the auto industry, in the agricultural industry, and a number of other industries, mining, where we export things to you. And we also know that as South African companies invest here, you are also able to create jobs. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So our main real reason for being here is to foster trade and investment, so that we are able to grow our economy with your support, and so that we are also able to address all these societal problems, because criminality thrives when people are unemployed, when they have no other hope to eke out a living. So that is what we need to resolve, and your support, your partnership with us is what is really going to give us a strong capability to move forward.
Excuse me, do you have anything to say? I mean, I don't want to leave you out. You know, the guy won 3 or 4 majors.
Boom! There you have it. The real reason he flew all the way from Pretoria to Washington is not to ask for a handout. He came to make a case, a strategic one, a mutual one, and frankly, a necessary one. He got to the heart of the matter. South Africa's greatest vulnerabilities, crime, inequality, joblessness, don't exist in a vacuum. They are the consequences of an economy that isn't growing fast enough, and a global trade system that too often leaves African nations on the margins rather than at the table. Crime really thrives where there is inequality, he said. That is one of the reasons that has brought us here today, to improve our investment relations, our trade relations. Now, that statement is more than a soundbite. It's a shift in approach. Ramaphosa isn't asking for sympathy. He's outlining a pragmatic, long-term vision that trade and investment, not aid, are the keys to South Africa's stability. That by deepening partnerships, particularly with U.S. companies already invested in sectors like agriculture, auto, mining, and manufacturing, South Africa can create hundreds of thousands of jobs, not just for short-term relief, but for generational impact. This is how real development happens, through export markets that work, through industrial growth, through jobs that provide dignity, and through the kind of economic inclusion that keeps democracies healthy. What Ramaphosa is offering and asking for is shared value, not dependency. He wants a partnership that helps U.S. companies thrive in Africa while helping South Africa unlock the full potential of its people. A win-win, not a rescue mission. Your support, your partnership with us is what's really going to give us a strong capability to move forward. In a world that's becoming increasingly multipolar, where African countries have choices from China, the EU, the Gulf, Ramaphosa's message is also a geopolitical one. America, don't take this for granted. Don't take this relationship for granted. Invest in it, deepen it, Make it matter. Because South Africa doesn't just need partnership, it offers it. And Ramaphosa made that clear with quiet confidence. But will Trump take it? We don't know. Because after all the candid appeals from a legendary golfer, a concerned citizen, and a president with a vision, the meeting ended not with a bang, but a fade out. No commitments, no clear roadmap, no follow-up plans, just warm words and uncertain glances toward the future. When asked whether he would attend the upcoming G20 summit, a summit that the U.S. itself created, a key global platform where South Africa's message could resonate even louder, Trump deflected. Yes, he acknowledged the importance of U.S. presence, even suggesting that the summit is meaningless without it. But again, no commitment, just more ambiguity. And so the ball is in America's court. South Africa has made its play boldly, directly, and with purpose. It's not begging for charity. It's inviting partnership, offering shared prosperity, appealing to a history of alliance and a future of mutual gain. What happens next? That depends on who's truly listening and who's willing to act. Will Ramaphosa give more to leverage this relationship? We don't know. For now, the world watches. That's it for this breakdown. If you enjoyed it, share it with someone who needs to understand what really happened at the meeting and the consequences for our futures. Also, be sure to subscribe to our channel and consider joining our membership community where we go beyond the headlines. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sandra Babu-Boateng. Until next time, take care. Hey you! Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Also, visit face2faceafrica.com for your daily news and updates on what's going on within the global Black community so you can stay informed.